Welcome to the show. My name is Tuam. This show considers knowledge using a lens of political economy. What is political economy, you ask? Well, the big answer is that it is a branch of study that focuses on relationships between individuals, governments, and public policy. Then, it considers how these policies affect the nation's economy. The more simple definition of political economy considers ideas like the distribution of wealth, ownership of property, and issues of supply and demand. It essentially looks at all matters of development while keeping a keen eye on the politics of the day. For us to understand economic impact, therefore, it is necessary to apply rigorous analysis to information from the right source. Indeed, knowledge is only as powerful as its source. So, with that in mind, welcome to The Source.
Hi Kevin, how are you?
Hi, Aileen.
How have the last, have you been since we last met?
Superb.
Okay, fantastic. You ready to get started?
Let's do it.
So, as you know, a few weeks ago, the President went to the UK for a state visit and a two-day education summit. There was talk about trade, investment, climate change, and education.
Right.
But you were of the opinion that there were other conversations that may have been held that the mainstream media wouldn't normally carry.
Yeah.
What do you think these conversations were about?
Aileen, that's a great question. People must first understand that behind every bilateral talks, there are two types of forums. One is the contractual forums, and second is the non-contractual forums. In contractual forums, trade, investments, grants, partnerships between line ministries is what is thrashed out. In non-contractual forums, however, the setting is different. The talks are more intimate, they are more political. Non-contractual forums give context to contractual forums. Like, for example, who is better for trade, Raila or Ruto? Or who do you trust between both? Now, Aileen, back to your question. A state visit a year before Uhuru leaves office cannot miss the question, who are you leaving Kenya to?
Wow, well, if you're right, what do you think the Brits asked Uhuru?
Elena, I'll be pretty straightforward with you. I would imagine the Brits asked who would be the custodian of their interests after Uhuru retires. And you can be sure the name William Ruto popped up. The question therein should be, is Ruto a carbon copy of Moi? And the reason that question would arise is would the Ruto regime ask the Brits what the Moi regime asked of them? And that is shares in big corporations, for example. Remember, Professor Mutai Nguni always tells us that in the Moi School of Politics, Ruto was a boarding student, Uhuru was a night school student, and Museveni, Salva Kiir, and the late John Garang attended the Moi School through correspondence. And if this is true, Ruto spent the most time with Moi, meaning he probably learned the most from Moi. And if Moi was hostile to British interests, Eileen, what would Ruto's boarding student credentials mean to the Brits? And the answer is simple. He'll either be the same person as Moi or worse. And worse here means if Moi's regime asked for 10% from the British companies, Ruto's regime might ask for 50%.
50%? 50% of what?
Oh, your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, well, let's move on. So, what's the nature of these interests and why would the British seek to protect them?
Aileen, globally, the British have the largest investment footprint in Kenya. In fact, of the most valuable 10 companies in Kenya, the British own 5. Safaricom, EABL, British American Tobacco, ABSA, and Standard Chartered Bank. In fact, Safaricom is the most valuable company in Kenya and the 4th largest company in Africa. Their value is 11% of Kenya's GDP. This means that for every 10 shillings Kenya makes, Safaricom makes 1. Aileen, if you had that kind of stake in any economy, you would want to know who is looking after your interests. You would want to know whether the regime in charge will favor you or will muzzle you.
Okay, well, Kevin, we were having a conversation earlier about infrastructure in this country.
Right.
And you were saying that maybe the British have done more for trade than China has.
Yeah.
Do you still hold that position?
I had a little rethink about it, Aileen, and I think both have played significant roles in Kenya's infrastructure boom and linkages. In fact, when the story of Uhuru Kenyatta is told, the British and the Chinese will be at the center of it. As for the British, Kenya's trade with its neighbors wouldn't be what it is without trademark East Africa. And herein, I must say that I do not hold any brief for them. It was they who came up with the one-stop border posts, a system designed to clear goods once without having to go through other clearance protocols in the country they are in. So, for instance, goods from Mombasa destined to Uganda or DRC or Rwanda or Burundi are cleared once in Kenya before trucks would normally go through many statutory checks at various border points, resulting in long delays, incurred extra transportation costs. The whole thing was just a mess. The other big massive undertaking Ellen Trademark has done is at the coast. They have financed the building of a corridor that links Kenya to Tanzania, links the port of Mombasa to the Moi International Airport in Mombasa, and links the counties of Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, and Taita Taveta.
Okay, hold on. It sounds like you're saying something rather interesting.
Yeah.
Is Trademark East Africa the new Imperial British East Africa Company?
Cheeky question, Eileen. I have in some occasions equated them to each other. The same role Sir William Mackinnon played in the 1890s is the same role Trademark East Africa are playing, linking Kenya to neighboring markets. Yes, I do understand the colonial baggage and bitter taste we get in the mouth when we speak of Mackinnon and Co. But the truth is, if those colonizers did not build a railway from Mombasa to Uganda, Kenya, as we know it, may not or would not have existed. Nairobi would still be a big swamp. Now, but one more thing, Elaine, the Dongo Kundu project linking Kenya to Tanzania and the whole of Coast Province will be the coast game changer. Other than just the roads and bridges and overpasses, the area will be a special economic zone. And for those that do not know, a special economic zone is an area in a country that is subject to different economic regulations than other regions within the same country. It's a delineated duty-free enclave where rules and regulations are relaxed to spur industrial financial incentives. For example, industries setting up in special economic zones wouldn't be subject to import duty of 5% value-added tax instead of 16%, no income taxes, etc. It's basically an environment that reduces barriers of trade in order to create a thriving environment for trade. That will be Dongo Kundu for you. And that is largely thanks to Trademark East Africa and, of course, the government of Kenya. And lastly, let's also be honest as well. The British have one up the Chinese. The Brits have tea farms. Half of all the tea consumed in the UK comes from Mombasa. 70% of all the flowers entering Europe come from Kenya. Most of the horticulture, coffee going to the UK comes from British farms in Kenya. It therefore means they control the logistics chain, all the way from the farms to the factories to the roads and corridors they constructed to the cups and plates in their homes in the UK. Have you ever seen a Chinese-owned tea farm in Kenya? They make road rail for us to use. The Brits do one border stops. They build roads and corridors for their own use. And I think that's very clever.
Okay, so Kevin.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the Brits own this country and the ownership structure has not changed since independence?
Nope, not at all. Matter of fact, indigenous Kenyan-owned companies have significantly diluted British interests. Kenya's largest financial institutions are locally owned. Equity Bank, for instance, is the largest bank in Eastern and Central Africa. If you look at the list of Kenya's wealthiest people, 7 out of 10 people look like you and I, Eileen. They are African. The rest are Indian Kenyans. You will not see a Lord Delamere or something like that. Kenyans, we are big time. Kenya's service sector from tourism to finance is dominated by locals. Even in agriculture, local farmers have a greater share of cash crop farmland ownership than foreigners. Eileen, my earlier submissions, take note, were in the context of the President's state visit to the UK. But if we put everything in context, anyone with significant interest in Kenya, local or foreign, is likely to ask President Uhuru who he will be leaving Kenya to. Period.
Wow, Kevin. Well, thank you so much for clarifying a number of fine points for President Uhuru's visit to the UK.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.